JoJo's Bizarre Adventure at a glance by the general public is usually defined by its unique character design, fashion, poses, supernatural factors, and just all-around bizarre appearance. But let's say a layer beneath the exterior, not too deep, we have a narrative journey with well-executed themes meant to resonate with the human experience. Now, Hirohiko Araki, the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, offers insight into the series' true nature. See, JoJo's is an ode to life and a celebration of humanity. Without help from machines or technology, the main characters face dangers with their body as their only weapon. For me, it's a principle. There's more to that quote, but you get the general idea. Now, this quote shows us Araki's intent when exploring the essence of human struggle and triumph. The style of writing is our basis of what stories were meant to do. And when it comes to this common theme used in our stories, JoJo excels. The characters are allowed to be more vulgar and human-like, with some exaggerations, which makes them feel a lot more authentic and relatable. While other manga may shy away from these portrayals and maybe more romanticize everything, JoJo's actually goes on to embrace them, creating a unique connection with its audience. Now, JoJo's impact is further amplified by its distinctive art style, characterization, overall aesthetic, everything that we know it for. These elements work in tandem with the narrative to drive home the themes and the messages that Araki seeks to convey. JoJo explores such the cyclical nature of conflict, the weight of inherited legacies, and how these legacies can be redefined or broken. It delves into more. So in this, I guess, say analysis, but it feels more like just an assessment to me, I'm going to be examining 1 to 2 themes in each part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to shine a light on this story's crucial elements. Now we're going to be starting off with Phantom Blood. Now, Phantom Blood sets the foundation for the series' exploration of human nature and legacy. The 2 prominent themes emerging from this arc. The first I'd like to mention is the duality of human nature. We're presented with a stark contrast between its 2 main characters, Jonathan Joestar and Dio Brando. The juxtaposition serves as an exploration of how individuals choose to react to their circumstances and what they prioritize in their life. It's a basis that reflects in the rest of the series. You have Jonathan, raised in a nurturing environment with all of his needs met, choose to prioritize protecting those who are close to him, or just in general, and being a positive force in the world. His upbringing provides him with a strong foundation, but it's his personal choice to embody righteousness and nobility, which defines his character. This choice resonates with the others, as seen in his influence on a character like Speedwagon, inspiring goodness in those around him. Then you have Dio, with his early life experiences, including the loss of his mother and his father's negative influence altogether, shaping his worldview. However, it's Dio's choice to prioritize self-preservation and power above all else, as that's what truly defines him. He reacts to the world's harshness by becoming harsh himself, deciding that ruthlessness is the only way to survive and thrive. And unlike Jonathan, Dio must resort to strong-arming and manipulating people into doing his bidding. His approach to gathering allies is based on fear, coercion, and deceit, reflecting his belief that power and control are the only meaningful currencies in life. And through these characters, Araki suggests that while our circumstances influence us, our choices and what we decide to prioritize in life ultimately shapes who we become. The series emphasizes that individuals have the capacity to choose their path regardless of their background. And the second theme that we have is on the weight of legacy and inheritance. The concept of legacy, both inherited and created, is central to Phantom Blood and sets the stage for the entire JoJo series. The Joestar family legacy, symbolized by their mansion and social status, initially appears as a blessing, but it becomes a source of conflict when Dio is introduced to the family, as it literally all goes down in flames. This explores how inherited legacies can be both, a gift and a burden. More importantly, we see how actions create lasting legacies. Dio's decision to use the stone mask transforms him into a vampire and sets in motion a conflict that will span generations. Jonathan's sacrifice at the end of Phantom Blood similarly reflects through time, influencing the future Joestars. This theme is further emphasized by the inheritance of the Ripple technique, passing from Zeppeli to Jonathan. It shows how knowledge and power can even be a form of legacy transcending blood relations. Phantom Blood establishes legacy as this double-edged sword that can inspire greatness and drive to uphold ideals that serve the greater good, but it can also have a heavy burden, forcing the descendants to confront the issues and consequences of their ancestors' actions. Through these themes, Phantom Blood establishes the basis of this exploration of human nature and generational impact that will continue through the rest of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It shows that in our earliest part, that the series had intentions on maintaining the general message. Themes about how we are shaped by our environments, the choices we make in our response to these circumstances, and the long-reaching effects of these choices. And that was just in Phantom Blood. Battle Tendency, the second part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, builds upon themes established in Phantom Blood while also furthering new questions. And I think that's the reason why it makes sense on why parts 1 and 2 are packaged together a lot. Not just for the fact that it was the case that they were released like that in terms of the anime, but there is a direct connection with the two, obviously. The first theme we address is about the power of relationships versus individuality. Another theme that's present throughout a lot of fiction. I'm not gonna BS you on that. That's a lot of fiction due to teamwork making the dream work. But the angle is interesting for how short of a time that it had been with this part. The Pillarmen initially serve Kars' goals but lean into their own sense of identity and honor as the story progresses. This shows that even in a group focused on individual power, bonds can form and influence actions. Caesar's character arc embodies the shift from individualism to valuing relationships, and then going back into individualism for a time being, and after that going back into relationships. He starts as a loner, reflecting his past, but through interactions with Joseph and others, he realizes that the strength is in bonds. The contrast between Wamu and Joseph's battles highlights the power of connections. Wamu sacrifices himself for Kars' goal and his own honor, while Joseph wins using both his skills and Caesar's inherited power. This victory, achieved with Caesar's help, even after death, emphasizes the enduring strength of human bonds. Kars and Joseph's responses to losing allies further illustrates this theme. Kars shows no growth from his comrades' defeats, while Joseph carries forward the strength and lessons from all of his encounters. This difference is the power and value of human connections. Kars' painful relationship with his people adds nuance to the theme. His creation of evolutionary power for his race suggests care and love, but his flawed methods and ultimate self-prioritization reveals the danger of this extreme individualism. And this a bit of complexity shows that even seemingly individualistic characters can have these layered motivations and relationships underneath. Our second theme being essentially the ethics of progress and the nature of superiority through its characters and contrasting philosophies and abilities. Because see, The pillar men, especially cars, embody the pursuit of evolution without, ethical boundaries. Their experimentation on their own people and quest to become the ultimate life form challenges our understanding of, moral limits in scientific and personal advancement. Joseph's journey presents an alternative of strength and superiority, despite lacking Hamon abilities compared to Caesar, who had originally been the better trained fighter. Joseph succeeds in the end with his quick thinking, adaptability, and occasional luck. This demonstrates that the true strength stems from perseverance, creativity, and the ability to learn and adapt rather than innate gifts or some sort of cheat code that potentially has some sort of connections to our current day lives, a big one. But you get the idea. His occasional luck can also be potentially attributed to his Hermit Purple related power that he receives to this extreme Hamon ability. I have a whole theory on that. I have a whole thing backing it. You can't really get rid of me on this type of merit. But now the contrast between Cars and Joseph challenges conventional notations of superiority. Cars, the perfect being, is ultimately defeated by Joseph, a human with inferior raw abilities, and he sucks. Physically and just all merit, like he just should. But this outcome suggests that superiority encompasses more than just physical or genetic advantages. Joseph's victory over seemingly insurmountable odds emphasizes the power of, human ingenuity and adaptability. It shows that in the face of, overwhelming power, human qualities like creativity and determination can still prevail. Cars had spent his time in the back seat throughout the entirety of the part, while Joseph had spent his time training and bettering himself. It suggests that true progress must be tempered with moral awareness, or at least, pursuing with effort, and not only the goal, but the journey towards it. This will connect later into part 5. While it's a theme that leans in towards the idea of being morally respectable and can make you all around superior, I would frame it a bit different. Because if greatness is a difficult road, and being better to others and yourself is in the same pocket of difficulty, then both roads should open you up to avenues of greatness that these others of, just like apathetic, just scoping altogether, they just wouldn't be able to see. Meanwhile, you can. Moving on into part 3, now at its basis, Stardust Crusaders themes aren't hard to grasp, realistically speaking. Stardust Crusaders explores the theme of collective strength against overwhelming evil. Each member of the Stardust Crusaders has distinct powers and personalities that contribute to their overall success, highlighting how diversity can be a team's greatest asset. This episodic structure of the journey to Egypt reinforces the theme of teamwork, because each encounter with a new stand user requires the group to combine their abilities in creative ways. And there's just no single power that is sufficient to overcome all of the challenges present. Dio, as the primary antagonist, represents an overwhelming evil that cannot be defeated by individual efforts alone. His seemingly insurmountable power seems to highlight the necessity of this group's collective strength. The sacrifices made by team members throughout the entire journey, particularly those of, Avdol and Kakyoin, they give weight to the power and importance of the bonds formed through shared struggle. These moments emphasize that the strength of the group is greater than the sum of its parts. Polnareff's character arc of one of a vengeful loner to a crucial team member further reinforces the series' message about transformative power of friendship and shared purpose. Through these elements, Stardust Crusaders expands on the themes of previous parts while introducing the concept of stands. This new power system serves as a metaphor for individual potential, and while the story focuses on teamwork, this suggests that this potential is best realized through cooperation and mutual support. It's a great story overall, and the journey itself fulfills its purpose without too much of a focus on, this is not an insult, on a focus of thematic depth. Now, on to Diamond is Unbreakable. Two of the themes that I'd say encapsulate the general idea of what DIU is the consequences of societal apathy versus active compassion, a theme that many have already recognized. And this might be a very big surprise. I'm not sure how often people consider this one, but I'd say the redefinition of the concept of masculinity and fatherhood. Now, these themes are brought to life through Araki's focus on the weaknesses inside of people's hearts, which drives both character development and is the basis of Diamond is Unbreakable's standabilities. Now, societal apathy allows evil to thrive unchecked in Morio, as seen with Yoshikage Kira's long undetected crime. The town itself just seems as this almost mystical place where nothing goes wrong and everyone's happy, but the truth is a lot is wrong. Now, this part also shows how active compassion and a golden heart can combat this evil. Josuke Higashikata embodies this counterpoint to apathy. And, despite his fear of turtles, this is as an example, he heals an injured one after confronting bullies. This happens in the first episode. Most likely happens in the first chapter. This demonstrates that kindness can coexist with personal fears and flaws. This action illustrates how small actions of compassion can ripple outwards, positively impacting the community. Now, the Morio warriors actively engage with the community's problems, and they represent this rejection of apathy and a redefinition of strength. Their evolving stance, specifically Koichi with his echoes and a better usage of their stance with Josuke's Crazy Diamond and the hand with Okuyasu, they symbolize personal growth gained from confronting these inner weaknesses and choosing to act for the greater good. This evolution demonstrates how overcoming personal fears and taking responsibility can combat societal indifference and foster a positive change. Now, Diamond is Unbreakable challenges the traditional notions of masculinity and fatherhood through its diverse character portrayals, right? Kira's twisted family dynamic with his mother's abuse and father's enabling behavior represents a perversion of parental roles. In contrast, with Josuke's upbringing offers a more positive counterpoint, as Josuke was raised by a single mother who played both parental roles with the support of her father, Josuke's grandfather, the policeman. Josuke grows into this well-adjusted, compassionate young man. He inherits his mother's ability to stand up for herself, and he has his grandfather's sense of duty. This background showcases how diverse family structure can still produce positive outcomes, I would know, defying conventional expectations of what is needed to raise a good man. And I honestly don't see this as like, I know that there's people who often consider certain things where it's like, this is definitely a headcanon-esque interpretation of said thing, but I just don't believe that, considering how deep we go with said theme and how much evidence we have towards it. Take Kira, for example, right? Kira's character further complicates this exploration of masculinity and fatherhood. His desire to be a true provider for a family reflects his base idea of wanting a small, comfortable life. It's not that this concept is, possible, but it's the fact of the matter that if Kira hadn't been essentially greenlit in his behaviors and had instead worked out a lot of his issues, he may have truly found peace by ending up in a traditional family home, as he was robbed of one really early on. But however, with his murderous urges enabled by his own family, this ultimately destroyed any chance of fulfilling this desire. This portrayal critiques parenting that avoids confronting children's flaws and the parent-child relationship itself. Yoshikage Kira exemplifies the destructive outcome of entirely non-confrontational parenting. His character emphasizes that true parenting and genuine love involve the courage to address harmful behaviors in those that we care for, emphasizing the importance of having difficult conversations rather than avoiding them. This approach suggests that effective parenting requires honest communications about problematic issues, explaining why they're harmful, and guiding children towards better choices, rather than enabling or ignoring their destructive tendencies. Yeah. In addition to this, we have Koichi's character arc that particularly embodies this theme of redefining masculinity. His stand evolves as he grows to protect others, suggesting that true strength lies in the willingness to care for others rather than the traditional notions that we're familiar with from before. This evolution demonstrates how personal growth and the desire to protect others can reshape one's understanding of strength and manhood. Then you have Okuyasu's relationship with his father, which adds another layer to this theme. His father's transformation from a figurative monster due to his actions to a literal immortal monster who's lost the ability to do evil represents the complex nature of familial bonds and forgiveness. Okuyasu's continued love for his father, despite the great changes, illustrates how compassion and acceptance can persist even in the face of these dramatic and drastic transformations, challenging conventional notions of family dynamics and filial responsibility. These themes come together in this overarching argument that true strength and maturity comes from being actively involved in one's community, confronting inner weakness, and choosing empathy even about little things. The Morio warriors renounce civic apathy and outdated notions of masculinity, choosing to actively protect their town. Their actions and the process of developing their stance suggest to break the cycles of violence and negligence. Conscious effort, collective action, and personal growth are all needed to get this developed society. Through these interconnected themes, Diamond is Unbreakable offers the thought that the cure to societal ills reaches beyond simple personal strength and in the realms of collective action, personal development too, and openness to this ability to show compassion, even in the smallest ways. You know, the part suggests that a golden heart, the choice to be kind and take action despite fear or inconvenience, can be a powerful tool against apathy, evil, and uplift the entire community. There is more I'd like to speak on, especially about considering the execution of this and how it did start with Shigechi of all things, but I feel like that's just for a different video altogether. Now we're going on into Golden Wind. Now Golden Wind focuses on characters who actively rebel against their predetermined roles in society, focusing on our protagonist Giorno Giovanna. Giorno had been born into a life of neglect, but after he had finally received care from the first time ever for simply acting in accordance with his beliefs, he refused to accept his circumstances as unchangeable. His resolve to alter his fate is embodied in his dream to become a gang star and trying to change the mafia from within. This isn't just a personal goal, it's a direct challenge to the societal structure that perpetuates crime and corruption in Naples. Giorno's ambition goes on beyond self-interest. He wants to reform Passione and explicitly vows to save the youth from narcotics. And I believe that this does insinuate keeping the mob away from the youth altogether, but that's me. Also, that's if we're recognizing that the dreams of Bruno are also the dreams of Giorno Giovanna, and they recognize that when young people are corrupted, the future itself becomes tainted. I feel like there's a lot of evidence to support that. And so by positioning Giorno at the top of the organization, he aims to protect the next generation and break the type of criminality that has held Naples hostage. This motivation adds depth to Giorno's defiance of fate. He's not just trying to change his own destiny, but alter the course of the entire community. We see this play out in his interactions with characters like Narancia and Trish, both young people caught up in the criminal world through no fault of their own. Giorno's efforts go on to protect and empower them and reflect his larger goal of safeguarding the future. This theme extends to other characters as well. Bruno Bucciarati, despite being a part of the criminal underworld, uses his position to protect the innocent. His decision to betray the boss and help Trish is a pivotal moment that shows his refusal to be bound by the expectations of his role in Passione. The nature of fate in Golden Wind is portrayed as a force that can be challenged through willpower and resolve. This is exemplified in the final battle against Diavolo, who represents an immutable fate with his standability to see and erase time. Giorno's victory over Diavolo symbolizes the ultimate defiance against this predetermined destiny. And in addition to that, we have our second theme. Golden Wind emphasizes the importance of the journey over the end result, a theme encapsulated in the quote of Abbacchio's backstory, where the police officer had told us, "The result is not all that I desire. When you desire only the results, you start taking shortcuts. And when you start taking shortcuts, you start to lose sight of the truth. And eventually, you lose your motivation too." It's within this theme that Abbacchio's character finds its way home. As a former police officer who took a bribe, Abbacchio learned the hard way that focusing solely on the results leads to compromising one's principles. His redemption comes from not achieving a specific goal, but from finding purpose in his journey with Bruno's team. We see that this theme plays out in how the characters approach their missions. Despite facing overwhelming odds, Bruno's team never resorts to these underhanded tactics or sacrificing of their principles for an easy win. Each challenge they face becomes an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. Giorno's development entirely throughout the story is just an example, an amazing example, if anything, of this. While he has a clear end goal, it's the experiences along the way that shape him into becoming this leader capable of reforming Passione. That's one of the reasons why we have the whole arrow as this representation of growth. That's for a different video that exists already. I can link you to it. His growth isn't just about gaining power, but about learning to trust his teammates and making difficult moral decisions. The story's structure reinforces the theme. Golden Wind doesn't rush towards its conclusion, but takes time to explore the character's growth and the bonds that they form. Each encounter, whether it be friend or foe, contributes to the character's development and overall narrative. These themes intersect and connect throughout Golden Wind, creating a story that explores the human capacity for change and the value of staying true to one's principles. By focusing on characters who defy their predetermined roles and valuing the journey over the result, Araki crafts a story that touches on important tropes that exist in similar manga. It challenges the readers to consider how our choices and experience shape us, regardless of the circumstances we're born into or the end goals that we pursue. And finally, we're going to be doing this with Stone Ocean, as Steel Ball Run and JoJo and JoJo lines do exist, but I believe that we can make a good enough point just using the 1 through 6 universe. Now, Stone Ocean taps back into the themes of the bloodline by exploring the weight of legacy and the fight for self-determination through its character struggles and choices. Jolene Cujo's journey exemplifies this theme. Initially rejecting her Joestar heritage, as Jolene is framed for murder and feels abandoned by her father, her stand Stonefree develops, not as a birthright, but through necessity and stand arrow, symbolizing her path to embracing her legacy on her own terms. This shows how individuals can redefine inherited legacies rather than being defined by them. Jotaro's actions illustrate this theme also, as his attempt to protect Jolene by staying absent backfires, drawing her into the very conflict that he had sought to avoid. This demonstrates how past decisions can have unintended consequences on the present, highlighting this inescapable nature of legacy. Now, Pucci, as the antagonist, embodies the continuation of Dio's legacy. His devotion to fulfilling Dio's will showcases how legacy can persist and evolve beyond their originators. Pucci believing that he's pursuing this righteous path, much like how the Joestar's legacy of heroism continues through Jolene. This parallel demonstrates how legacy can drive individuals on both sides of a conflict. The fight for self-determination is evident in Jolene's choices throughout the story. Her decision to remain in prison to protect her father and defeat Pucci, rather than escaping, shows her growth and into her own person while acknowledging her family's legacy. This illustrates how individuals can honor their heritage while still forging their own path. Other characters reinforce this theme. Emporio, born in the prison, fights against this predetermined fate. You also have Weather Report's struggle with his hidden past, which is connected to Pucci, which is there and for connected to Dio. Also further highlights tension between legacy and self-determination, but indirectly more so because Weather Report is trying to focus more so on definition of himself and is wrapped up into this whole mess. These subplots demonstrate how theme permeates through the entire narrative and affecting the characters beyond the protagonist, as this is an entire issue. I go on to say that if a character does bear the Joestar mark in this part especially, that they do matter a lot in the context of this theme. And then we're wrapping it up to the end, where this climactic battle against Pucci brings this theme to its peak, because you have Jolene and her allies choosing to risk everything to prevent this predetermined future, ultimately resulting in a reset of the universe. This shows how individual choice and collective action can challenge even, cosmic level threats, emphasizing the power of this self-determination in the face of seemingly immutable fate, as the same way that we had with Golden Wind. Now, Pucci's actions lead to this apparent end of the Joestar bloodline, seemingly to conclude their legacy. However, the true essence of what the Joestar legacy is the drive to fight for justice and protect others, and that survives through Emporio. Though not Joestar by blood, Emporio carries forward their spirit and values. This demonstrates that a legacy's true power lies not in bloodlines, but in their ideals and actions, which inspires others into doing. Conversely, Emporio's defeat of Pucci marks the definitive end of Dio's malevolent legacy. This contrasts highly in a key difference. While the Joestar legacy transcends blood relations and continues through those who embrace their values, Dio's legacy, focused on power and domination, fails to persist beyond those directly connected to him. Through these interconnected elements, Stone Ocean explores how individuals can acknowledge their past without being controlled by it, and how personal choices can shape not just individual destinies, but the fate of the world itself. It reinforces the idea that legacies built on positive values and selfless actions have the power to endure and influence others, even when the original bloodline ends. The story ultimately suggests that the fight for self-determination can lead to the continuation of worthy legacies, while bringing destructive ones to a close. It's beautiful, man. And at its core, this series is an advocacy of the power of human will against the weight of circumstance. It argues that while our origins shape us, they don't define us. And from the earliest chapters to the final pages, our characters wrestle with the chains of fate, family, and society, yet they find strength to forge their own paths. This theme of autonomy evolves throughout the story. What begins as a straightforward conflict between, innate virtue and nurtured cruelty grows into a more nuanced exploration of self-determination. We see characters breaking free from predetermined roles, choosing to define themselves again with their legacies. But the story doesn't preach about, a blind rebellion. It recognizes that there's some inherited traits and cycles that are worthy of pursuing and preserving. The challenge lies in discerning which traditions to honor and which to discard. This balance between respecting the past and forging the future becomes a central struggle for many characters. The struggle to learn and fail, the fight to do right and acknowledge our issue, being able to do better than them. The story says that true strength comes from free choice, not simply ignoring everything that came before, but questioning your legacy and choosing what you want to keep. This theme powers through beyond the confines of this story, asking us, the reader, the viewer, the person that's watching this video, asking us to consider our backgrounds and what we will leave behind. By fusing this fantastical, and bizarre world with our own unreal, deeply human one, we're reminded that in a world that seems predetermined and against us, we will always retain the power to choose what our adventure will truly be. Godspeed.